The Edmonton Oilers offseason has been the most exciting in the NHL, bar none. It's not done yet, but we are going to go ahead and cover everything so far right now as we're in the middle of August. Take a look at the table of contents to your right as we continue our offseason previews. We're going to talk about their additions, their subtractions, their draft. We're going to go ahead and talk about how Ken Holland has been doing as a general manager. We're going to talk about Jay Woodcroft, Connor McDavid, everything. And then we're going to tell you the expectations for the Edmonton Oilers next year and in the coming seasons. And spoiler alert, this team is banana sandwich. There is going to be absolutely no way to predict what the Oilers are going to do, what they can do, who the Edmonton Oilers even are.
Who am I? I don't know.
But this may be the most exciting team to watch in hockey because there are so many varying opinions, and no matter which way I want to cut it up, chop it up, or splice it up for you, I still cannot peg where, when, how, why, and what are the Edmonton Oilers other than an amazing hockey team filled with a ton of storylines. So let's talk about them. Like most teams that we've already talked about, the Edmonton Oilers and Ken Holland with his stamp on it tells a big piece of this story. And one of the most important things that he has done is he has brought up Jay Woodcroft, newly minted into his head coach role with the Edmonton Oilers. The interim tag is out. Jay Woodcroft comes in as one of the best young up-and-coming coaches in the NHL. I have to give him a grade of B+. Oiler fans are going to want an A or an A+. This man has the potential to be an A+ coach and join the likes of guys like Rod Brindamore, Barry Trotz, who isn't coaching this season, guys like Daryl Sutter, but he is going to have to do a lot, and he's got a long career in front of him right now. So B+ would have been higher, but the youth and the unproven capability of Jay Woodcroft, and yes, he's already gone to a conference finals, it's going to take a while before you catch a guy like Sutter. I think we can all agree upon that. Jay Woodcroft is one of the best engaging coaches at the NHL, and we've talked about young players, what they want versus young players, what they need, and the fact that a coach has to be able to bridge communication between young players, veterans, and how to play the game the right way, because there's only so many ways to play this game. Jay Woodcroft seems to be very good at that. This is a new coach with an old flavor. Will it work for the Oilers? B+ for Jay Woodcroft. I'm excited to see where this goes, but like everything we talk about in the Oilers, this could go anywhere. Moving over to the additions of the Edmonton Oilers, there's only two to talk about. Let's go ahead and talk about Mattias Janmark first. This is a one-year deal that comes in on a replaceable level player. 0.2 on game score value add, our overall encompassing rating of a player. 25 points coming over from the Vegas Golden Knights. He is a nice depth piece to add to the Oilers as they continue to grow their forward depth. Now, Jack Campbell, one of the biggest free agents to sign this year, he ends up coming in with a GSV of negative 1.2. Yes, you read that right. Negative 1.2. The best goaltending free agent available out there is very similar to what the Oilers are used to. When Captain Jack is hot, he is one of the hottest goaltenders in the league. He had one of the best runs with the Toronto Maple Leafs early in the season last year, and he had a fantastic playoffs, in my opinion anyway, all 7 games against the Tampa Bay Lightning. He was this close. When Campbell is on, he can be one of the best. He could win you a Stanley Cup. But when he is off, it is an absolute train wreck. He's one of the worst. He's not even replaceable. He has a 2.64 goals against average, and he has a .914 save percentage with 31 wins with the Toronto Maple Leafs. He's a very good goalie if there's a good team in front of him, and the Oilers are a good team in front of him. But is this really an upgrade for the Edmonton Oilers, who had Mike Smith and Mikko Koskinen, who both equally, when hot, could absolutely win games and help the Oilers look purely dominant, and when they were off, make the Oilers and the team look, well, not that good. So they are bringing in a very similar goaltender. They're just paying him $5 million a year to do this. So this is just the way the Oilers are going to go. You have all the potential in a guy like Woodcroft. We'll see where he goes. You have all the potential in a guy like Campbell, but he's 30 years old. Should we really be talking about potential? He's probably set in his ways. So when he's hot, he's going to be hot. And when he's low, he's going to be low. You better just hope he's hot enough to get you to the playoffs, and you really better hope he hits his upswing when you're in the playoffs. Overall, I'm going to grade this a C because yes, you did get a new goalie, and yes, you may have addressed the position, but did you really upgrade? I'm not sure. Now, we know Mike Smith and Mikko Koskinen were not an option. You couldn't stay with that tandem. We know Skinner wasn't an option, so this may be the best goaltender available, but sometimes not making a move and waiting is better than making a move. And the dead cap space of the Edmonton Oilers and contracts like Zach Kassian, well, they kind of prove that. You don't want to just make moves to make moves. Maybe this will work. I can't wait to find out. For the first time in this series, we're going to talk about contract resigns because that is where the Edmonton Oilers did their work. When you take a look at it, you got Yamamoto, you got Puljujarvi, you got Evander Kane, you got Brett Kulak, and you got Ryan McLeod. Ryan McLeod will resign. We just have to put a question mark there right now because he hasn't resigned yet. Taking a look at Kailer Yamamoto, a GSVA of 0.2. This is a young player. It's an exciting player, but he hasn't really contributed above replacement value. That means his contract being just north of $3 million, whether it's fair or not is irrelevant. His contribution to the team has still been so-so. He needs to step it up this year, but I do believe the young man is a big future of the Edmonton Oilers. Jesse Puljujarvi, the player that they were hoping to trade, is my understanding of it. They didn't really want to bring him back, but he's got one of the better GSVAs of 2.6. The problem with Puljujarvi, in my opinion, and I think the thing that a lot of fans and definitely the coaching staff are seeing, is that his work ethic seems to lack, but more importantly, his skating isn't that good and his overall skills, although should have been really high, haven't really translated into what he was supposed to be in the NHL. He's a very confusing player when you look at him, and teams don't like confusing players. They like guys that fit into nice little boxes and can fit into their nice little systems. They're just so attached to this player. When you put in draft capital like this player, you gotta re-sign them. I don't agree with that. I think they should have just let him walk, in my personal opinion, but they want to keep the depth. They put him on a one-year deal. It's a very low risk, 14 goals, 22 assists, 36 points. How does he grade out better than Kailer Yamamoto? Stay tuned and I'll show you. Evander Kane comes in at 2.5, so him and Puljujarvi technically provide the same value to the team. We know this is wrong, especially after seeing Evander Kane's playoff run. This is why advanced stats don't tell the whole story, but they give us a good check. 22 goals, 17 assists, 39 points playing in the few games that he did. He is absolutely the right addition with them, but the question about Evander Kane, and you've heard me say it on this channel, is what Evander Kane will you get? Will this be the first time in Evander Kane's career, the first time, Edmonton Oiler fans, that he plays out his contract without problems? He's a great teammate. He contributes offensively, and he lives up to the money that he's been paid. Fool me once, shame on you. Fool me twice, shame on me. What does it mean to fool me 3 times and maybe 4 times? Winnipeg and Atlanta, fool me once. Buffalo, fool me twice. San Jose, fool me 3 times. He has never made it through his contract without a trade, a controversy, being basically lit up in the media and by his teammates, a middle finger to the air from his buddy Dustin Byfuglien, who was not his buddy in Winnipeg. The controversies that he had in San Jose, the challenges that he had on and off the ice in Buffalo.
Well, yeah, he's weak. Gets taken down by a ref. It happens. Got to get in the gym, no?
Wherever this guy goes, drama follows. But if he has turned a corner on his 4th chance in the NHL and he continues to get paid because he is a premier player in the NHL when he plays hockey the way he can play, then he will be a banger and a big addition for the Oilers. So Oilers fans, you're excited now. Is this going to be the time he turns the corner? Well, when I've seen it 3 times, I'm actually just going to have to sit here and wait and see until his contract is over before I can comment, because the history's just been too long for me. But I know Oilers Nation is pumped for him, and he's a good addition to the team. Brett Kulak, nice signing there. 4 years for Cooley, 5 goals, 16 assists last year, 21 points. They needed this guy to come in. They get a great deal on this guy, under $3 million. Anytime you can get a top 6 defenseman under $3 million, you've done good. 0.2 GSVA, but that happens when you play for the Montreal Canadiens in the year they had last year, and you end up in a trade. And then Ryan McLeod is nothing but a replaceable level player right now, but we have all seen the brilliance of McLeod, his end-to-end rushes, his high-end skill. Sky is the limit for a guy like Ryan McLeod. The question is, what is he worth? Right now, he's only worth about $1 million. That's why he hasn't re-signed yet, but his potential is sky high. How you get great deals about guys like Leon Draisaitl is you overpay guys like Ryan McLeod right now. The problem is the Oilers are $6 million over the cap, which we'll talk about. So what can they afford to pay this guy? He will end up in their system. He will get paid, but will it be a bridge deal? And bridge deals are nervous. Why are they nervous? Because the closer you get to RFA, we've seen it with guys like Matthew Tkachuk, Jacob Trouba, and a ton of other players in the Canadian systems. The closer you get to your UFA, the more the player just wants to wait and see and make it to that date. So this is your moment to lock them in for that great deal. But can you do it long term, or do you have to bridge them and risk losing them later? Overall, I give their resigns a B. I would give it an A. If you want to look at it in isolation for this year, I'd give this an A. I think Ken Holland has done an amazing job with the challenges he has put himself in for the salary cap. He's definitely dug himself out, as the Simpsons say, dig up, stupid.
Now, dig up, stupid.
Well, he has done excellent at digging up, but I have to give it a B because of the question marks. Will Jesse Puljujarvi be traded? Well, so far, nobody's wanted him. What will you do with Ryan McLeod, and will you get him long-term, or will he just inch closer to unrestricted free agency? Can Evander Kane actually play out the length of his contract? Will Brett Kulak live up to his $2.75 million and rebound from his tough year with the Montreal Canadiens? And will Kailer Yamamoto continue to grow? This is getting a B because of all the question marks, but this is the best Ken Holland could have done. Let's go ahead and pull up the player cards from The Athletic here. This is a special treat for you here, Oiler fans. Let's go ahead and start with the green boxes first. You take a look at Yamamoto, Kane, and Puljujarvi. I want to compare these three players. Their usage on the ice, 17.1 minutes per game for Yamamoto, 19.4 for Kane, and 15.4 for Puljujarvi. Yamamoto's role based on time of the ice is a top 6. Kane's usage is a top line. When you're playing 9.4 minutes per game, you are top line considered, and Jesse Puljujarvi is considered middle 6 at 15.4. Then let's take a look at the gold box down below, the GSVA. You can see there that Yamamoto, and it's the bottom number is what they actually did. The top number is what they were expected to do. Yamamoto actually disappointed this season, depending on how you look at it. When it comes to the advanced analytics, he underperformed. He had a 0.2 GSVA. Evander Kane overperformed at a 2.5 versus his 2.1, and Jesse Puljujarvi overperformed at 2.6 at 1.9. It's really interesting when you take a look at the advanced stats, because now we look at the red box, the market cap, and what should have been paid to them based on their contribution to the team. Well, when you look at Yamamoto at 3.2, that means the contract that Ken Holland signed was excellent for him. When you take a look at the contract for Evander Kane, $7.6 million, that's where he got that number of $7 million. He wasn't out to lunch. Excellent contract again by Ken Holland if he can play to it. And then Jesse Puljujarvi, $7.2 million. That is why advanced stats can be banana sandwich. They're banana sandwich here. And when you take a look at some of these players and you think like, does this really match? I'm going to say it doesn't really. It doesn't work in every scenario. And definitely Jesse Puljujarvi and even Evander Kane and Kailer Yamamoto, it's just not passing the sniff test here on advanced analytics. But you know what? They're very good equations and they work for a reason. So they can check your bias at the very least and make us pause and think. But $7.2 million for Puljujarvi is no bueno. And if he was really worth that and playing that out of his mind, someone would have paid him. So very interesting to take a look at these things and dissect the Oilers and their re-sign. Holland really had his work cut out for him. Taking a look at the subtractions, we've got to give an A+ here to Ken Holland, especially getting that Zach Kassian contract off the books. He fixes his own problem he made. 6 goals, 13 assists, 19 goals, over $3 million a year. Replaceable level player with GSVA. He's out. That's huge. That's going to allow them to move forward because contracts like that kill you. Then you take a look at Josh Archibald. Well, he's out. Big deal. Doesn't matter. Barely didn't play. Get out of here. Duncan Keith retires. That's unfortunate because you lose locker room leadership and some depth back there on D. But Duncan Keith is out. Congratulations on your great career there. Mike Smith, question mark. He'll either be LTIR, he'll be out, or he'll play. And if he decides to play, that could end up hurting the Edmonton Oilers. But for now, he's on LTIR and there has been no speculation. Well, there's been no confirmation. There's been lots of speculation on the future of Mike Smith and retirement, and Mikko Koskinen has taken his role back to Europe. Now take a look at the stats comparing Koskinen and Jack Campbell. You can see Campbell's definitely the best goalie out of all of them by goal against average, also by save percentage. But then when you take a look at the fact that Mike Smith and Mikko Koskinen had a better GSVA, but it's not much better, you're not really getting a huge improvement on the back end here. You are getting a very lateral move with a lot of money tied up in one goaltender. So you save about $1 million between the combined contract of Smith and Koskinen versus the contract for Campbell, but it still comes with a lot of risk. Regardless, really good job getting those players out of the system. It is one of the few teams where I can say every player that ended up exiting, and Mike Smith, maybe not, that is exactly what you would want to do. That's a dream scenario. That's why he gets an A+ from me. Finally, we take a look at the draft. I'm going to have to give it a C. Why? Well, because Reed Schaefer, he's an A-level pick, at my opinion, at pick 32. I think this is a great defenseman to have in your system. But then after that, you don't really have any picks that are worth anything. They're 5, 6, and 7 round picks here. So when you take a look at the fact that they just really didn't get a lot of impact players and they have contract troubles, that kind of stuff, you're going to go ahead and you're going to give it a C. You can't give it anything more than that when you're picking so few times, but don't hate on the C grade. It doesn't mean that Schaefer isn't an excellent pick. It just means he didn't make a lot of picks, and to get an A grade, you usually have to have a team with a lot of picks, and if you have a lot of picks, you didn't do that good last year. So overall, you actually want to be a C because you want to be pushing for the cup. The final off-season grade here for the Edmonton Oilers so far is a B. Some people are going to give him an A+, some people are going to give him a C, some might give him a D, some might give him an A. The range of outcomes is massive here, and it is all because the question marks under the resign. You love the resign right now in isolation at this moment in time. Fast forward 3 years, will we still love them? The subtractions, we all know we love. The additions, will we love Jack Campbell in 2 or 3 years? We're going to have to wait before you grade it, so I just have to go ahead and say it's a B. I don't know anything more that Ken Holland could have done. I don't think he could have done any more. I think he did his absolute best this offseason. He may have had one of the best off seasons for any general manager just because of the hand that he was dealt this year. They're looking good. Let's go ahead and talk more about their salary cap by taking a look at Cap Friendly. The Edmonton Oilers right now are $6 million over the cap. That includes their dead cap money. That includes their players on LTIR, all their forwards, and all their defensemen. So they're in a little bit of trouble right now, but they've got time to figure this out. And when we take a look at capfriendly.com, you will see that there are ways out of this pretty simply. So again, Ken Holland's doing a good job. We want to talk about our core players, pending players, rentals, and ugly contracts right now. Let's take a look at the 3+ year core contracts. You got McDavid, Draisaitl, Hyman, Ryan Nugent-Hopkins, Evander Kane, Darnell Nurse, Cody Ceci, Brett Kulak, and Jack Campbell. This is one of the largest cores in the NHL. The fact that most of their players are locked up for that amount of time, 9 players out of 20 starting, that's amazing, and banana sandwich at the same time. But that's the Edmonton Oilers. Impending contracts over the next 1 to 2 years. Guys who are likely to be re-signed. Yamamoto just signed, we know it, but he's likely to be re-signed again. Either that or he'll make it to UFA because of the bridge deals and he'll go get a bag of money. We'll end up seeing if he plays out of his mind in the next 2 years. That's great for the Oilers, but if you don't win a cup and a guy like that plays out of his mind, he usually ends up walking from what we've seen in the new NHL. Warren Fogle maybe not be re-signed. Ryan McLeod may or may not be re-signed in the way people are hoping. He's the one where I'm sure he's going to get re-signed, but what is it going to be? Tyson Barrie may or may not get re-signed. He'll be 33 by the time the contract's out, so I'm going to say maybe it depends on the price he gives to the Oilers, or he may be traded. He's still an asset, though, that you want to keep in your system. Evan Bouchard is going to be re-signed, and he's going to want some money. He is one of the best young defensive prospects in the NHL right now, and Philip Broberg should end up playing for the team this year, and he'll need a deal next year. Your rental players that you have right now are Jesse Puljujarvi, Derek Ryan, Matthias Janmark, and Devin Shore, Mr. Shorzy. These guys are likely to not be re-signed next year, and maybe a couple of them ended up traded at the deadline or during the offseason. Ugly contracts in the system. Darnell Nurse, ? Depends on how you look at Nurse. He was really hurt last year. He had a lot of injuries going into the playoffs. I love Darnell Nurse. I have been an advocate of this player for the last 2 or 3 years, and I really think this player deserved the contract that he got. But anytime you get a giant bag of money like that on a team that really needs that salary cap space, it can hinder, it can help depending on how he plays. So I say Nurse ? Because at the end of the day, how I feel about it is going to change year to year, just like every fan, because it's really going to depend on how Nurse plays. I think he has a great year, though, next year. Jack Campbell, I think this is an ugly deal. There's no question mark there for me. We all know how I feel about Jack Campbell. Jack Campbell's 30 years old. He's shown me everything that I need to see from a goalie right now. He could end up winning a Stanley Cup if he gets hot. We've talked about Jack enough. but we'll talk about him more this year. Walking over to capfriendly.com, let's go ahead and take a look at what I just told you. What I do like about Ken Holland right now is he's kept all of his first, and he continues to pick in the first round. That's one of the best things about Holland. He doesn't trade away his future just to go for the right now. So really nice job there by the Oilers. They lost some second, third, and fourth round picks coming up, but those are nothing, to be perfectly honest. Second round picks are worth something, but not nearly as much as a first. When we take a look at the core players, you can see there McDavid, Draisaitl, Hyman, Hopkins, and Kane are all locked in as part of their core. Then you have Yamamoto and his new deal. Yes, he's still an RFA, but remember, just because you control his rights doesn't mean he couldn't demand a trade, especially if he pops off. And when you take a look at all these big money deals right here, how much money is left to pay him if he does pop off? Jesse Puljujarvi, again, you control his rights. I think they're just hoping to find a trade partner for him, so I think they're hoping to showcase him and move him out if they need. But if you don't, he's still a productive player, and he's only 24 years old. This is a really nice core. Warren Fogel's got 2 years left on an okay deal. Derek Ryan's got 1 year. Janmark's got 1 year. Shore's got 1 year. Ryan McLeod, the 22-year-old, is an RFA. When you take a look at this forward depth, and then you scroll down all the way to their prospects and notice that they got Xavier Bourgault and they got Dylan Holloway, you are now seeing one of the deepest forward groups in the NHL. Last year, I said they weren't that deep, but a year changes a lot, team. When you see these young guys, especially guys like McLeod, and now you're going to see some of the prospects entering the system. You've seen what Hyman can do with the team. You know what Evander Kane can do with the team. Now, last year, I said they were one of the shallowest teams in the NHL when it comes to forward depth. Well, this year, they're one of the deepest. So congratulations to Ken Holland, Jay Woodcroft, and Oilers fans. Got a pretty nice unit up there, and you'll see it in our expectations. Taking a look at their defensemen, you can see that contract for Darnell Nurse. Tyson Barrie continues to still impress. Tyson Barrie is a very productive player. Cody Ceci, Brett Kulak, and then you've got Evan Bouchard, and you've got Philip Broberg, plus you got Campbell and Stewart here. Then you got Clefbaum and Mike Smith over here, and then as you're coming down, you notice you got Lucic, James Neal, and Sekera all on dead money. When you come down, you can see that they have $4.1 million in dead cap here, and they have almost $8 million total to pay in dead cap. That hurts. Sometimes making too many moves puts you in positions where you have to pay money for nothing. So when you take a look at it, they are $88 million at the cap, $6 million over. But remember, when you take a look at injured reserve, they don't come off till the season starts. So you're going to have to do some line juggling here, but they're basically right at the cap. That's how that ends up working. Contract grade time. Head over to theathletic.com. Dom Lucian goes ahead and grades all of the contracts for this upcoming year for the Edmonton Oilers. They don't grade out well. C+. They're not loving these contracts when you take a look at their contribution last year versus how much money they're being paid. And you'd be shocked to know that Connor McDavid's the best contract on the roster. If you're not an Oilers fan, you might be thinking, well, when guys get paid over $10 million per year, you can't win a Stanley Cup with them. Look, stop with that. You want talent on your roster. When guys go ahead and give Marners, Matthews, when you give guys like Connor McDavid and the future Nathan McKinnon, who is looking to get paid $13 million per year, apparently crap for taking so much money. As long as they play to it, it is fine. And the only reason they haven't won a Stanley Cup yet with these contracts is because no one has won it yet with these contracts. Someone will eventually do it, and then the narrative will flip. This is how it works in the NHL. It's a copycat league. It's copycat fans. It's copycat talking heads talking to you. We're all the same. We look at history and go, just because it hasn't happened before doesn't mean it won't happen in the future. Someone finally does it. Everybody copies it, crosses their fingers, and goes, I told you so. It was always the way to go. Whatever. Copycat league. Great contract for Connor McDavid based on his contribution. Leon Draisaitl's an A. You may be wondering why the cheaper contract's an A and McDavid's an A+. We're going to take a look at that in a second. Puljujarvi is a B+ based on his contributions. Kane is a B. Derek Ryan is a B-. And then you've got a whole bunch of C+ here. Zach Hyman is a C+ contract, even though he is an A+ player. Then you take a look at Ryan Nugent-Hopkins, same thing. He is beloved in Edmonton, but a D+ contract for an A+ human being. Then you take a look at Tyson Barrie, Cody Ceci, Brett Kulak, and Darnell Nurse. That contract for Nurse, people don't like it. I may be a bit of an advocate for it, but the numbers say they don't like it. So when people are on it, trust me, they get it. your gut feeling usually doesn't lead you the wrong way. And then Evan Bouchard, Philip Broberg, Ryan McLeod, Kailer Yamamoto are not counted, and they have a dead cap of $80 million. So finally, what are the expectations for the Edmonton Oilers? Well, first, I want to thank Lance Kane, one of our executive members. This video is for you. We're probably going to have a follow-up video next month for you in this as more people transition in and out of the Oilers. So Lance, thanks for being here, buddy. Big shout out to all our executive members. Huge shout out to all our lower bowl members. And if you would go ahead and like to support the channel, you can do it in 3 ways. Subscribe down below, it's free. Hit a thumbs up down below, it's free. And if you want to be part of the coach's staff, that is a monetized donation to the coach here, or you like the video, there's a join button or a super thanks down below. So many options here on YouTube, right? But the free support, commenting down below, still dropping the thumbs up and subscribing is the best way you can help us out. I expect the Oilers next year to return to the conference finals. I said the same thing about the Calgary Flames. They have the same expectations. Only one will come out of it. Maybe both will miss it, but I mean, hey, it's the way it goes. But this is a conference final team. This is a team that should do no worse or better than they did last year. I think they've only improved, to be honest. So the Stanley Cup Finals could actually be in their future as an expectation. Their risk to miss it is medium. It is still very hard to return to the conference finals. It's very hard to return to the Cup Finals. There are going to be improved teams in the Pacific. They're going to still likely have to go through the Battle of Alberta based on how playoff format works. And then you're going to have to worry about teams like the Vegas Golden Knights or the California teams who have all improved, including the Anaheim Ducks and the LA Kings. So there's a lot of ways that the Edmonton Oilers could end up missing these expectations, but this is a good enough team that they should be a conference finalist or beyond. I think this could be a team that's even a sneaky pick right now if you want to bet on them for the Stanley Cup. 2023 and beyond, they are at minimum a playoff contender because they have a lot of future players that have not been traded. We've talked about it. Ken Holland has a lot of his first round picks. He still has first round picks in the system. Even if this team has some bad contracts going forward, guys like Holloway, Bourgault, Reed Schaefer, and Philip Broberg should be able to fill in really nicely, keeping them as a playoff contender. And heck, maybe they'll even end up becoming a Stanley Cup contender the year after and the year after that. They could actually be scarier next year as that dead cap money comes off the books. Okay, Oiler fans, Oiler Nation, that's it. That's the state of the union of what's going on in your team. Let the comments fly. You're going to see a lot of people say we got it right. You're going to see a lot of people say it should have been better. And you're going to see a lot of people say you overvalued them. This is a controversial team right now based on where they're sitting. And I don't blame it, but I think we can all agree this is going to be one of the most, if not the most fun team to watch this year.